Hello and welcome to The Blank Potato. I have 3 short horror stories for you today, and if you want to learn more about the authors, link in the description. And the title of the first story is I Found What Happened at Roanoke. Before we start, I would just like to invite you to please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and as I can see in my analytics, more than 94% of the people watching this content isn't subscribed to my channel. I would truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, as that would help the channel a lot. Thank you. And now, let's begin. I found what happened at Roanoke. I live in the Outer Banks, down in North Carolina. Frequently, I visited the historical site of the Lost Colony, amazed by the artifacts and the intricate lore and history behind the place, alongside the folklore and fairy tales of what happened. I personally believe this is what led me to my job. I'm an archaeologist. I've done digs in India, Iran, even Eswatini. You name it, I've probably done work there. Recently, the state of North Carolina hired me out to check out Roanoke and visit the site alongside a small team. I remember now being glad, as I could finally work near my home and be able to see my family in between workdays. If only it were that simple. It started pleasantly. Our team was cohesive, well-rounded, and extremely quick with our workload. We would be inspecting and digging around the remnants of a few shelters and nearby native ruins. Nothing too unusual for a site like Roanoke. I used to personally believe that the settlers of Roanoke simply joined the Croatan tribes, likely struggling in the New World and taken in by natives, which was uncommon but certainly not unheard of. We would each be given a tent near the site, and there were 2 campers we could use to drive in and out of the sites with our gear and to sleep if the weather got bad. Overall, the first few nights went well, and I've done much worse. I'd only have to stay for 2 weeks, get paid, and then return home. It started on the 4th night, 8 days out from the end of our dig. Branches crumpled around my tent, and I thought it was just one of my crew going out late to take a piss. However, they didn't have a flashlight, and they seemed thin. Unnaturally so, and tall. The figures seemed to be 6'5" or 6'6" if I had to guess. We had some pretty tall members on our team, but this person just felt unfamiliar. I went to give them my flashlight, as walking alone at night in the middle of a forest without light could be dangerous. But they were gone before I could unzip my tent. I heard more branches crack, footsteps, and then nothing. I went back to sleep, figuring that they probably knew their way anyways. Nobody else from the team knew what I was talking about, as I detailed my experience the night before over breakfast. Except for David. David was a bit of a loner, rarely talking except when needed. However, he had a steady hand and was well liked among my team, proving to be an invaluable member. It wasn't human, that's for sure. I saw it too, you know. I opened the tent for just a moment and saw it. It was bony and thin, towering over everyone. It was also as pale as a sheet, with a nose, but no mouth. Its eyes were sunken and black, restless, David stated, trailing off and staring into the distance. "Stop fucking around, David," I said, which caused a laugh from the crew. Inside, however, I had a feeling he was right. It wasn't human. The 5th night was when I saw it. I camped out in the camper, using back pains as an excuse. In reality, I wanted to see if I could see it again. I blacked out the windows, turned on the heaters, had a handgun ready, turned on the dash cam, and got out a pair of binoculars. I was prepared. I caught a glimpse of it next to a tent at around 1:51 a.m. first, staring directly at a sleeping camper. The scariest part? It made no sounds. Without a mouth, it just stared blankly. Every time that thing took a breath, you could see its ribs. It showed no expression, no lust, no ambition, no anger, no pain, no happiness, nothing. Its head began to drop, and a hole began to form around where its mouth would be. What the fuck? I shit you not. In an instant, it grabbed one of the tent poles and crushed it with its hand. The poor soul who was trapped inside of the tent let out a scream before the entire tent was thrown into a tree, silencing it instantly. The creature then tore a hole in the tent and swallowing my crew member whole. All of this happened seemingly instantaneously. But then, like clockwork, others began to appear. However, the thirst and hunger of the creature had not been quenched. The abomination visited each tent, one by one. I attempted to start the car, only to see that mud had formed around the tires and that it wouldn't be able to move. Fuck. Hearing the noise of the car starting, the creature ran towards me, shattering the windows as it attempted to grapple me. I shot blindly and wildly, shooting it in one of its eyes. It covered its eye and ran off into the forest, bleeding profusely. As it turned, I saw 7 letters carved into its back. Croatan. As I type this, I am driving to the police and then to my family. David and another, a heavy drinker who rarely actually showed up to the digs, managed to stay safe and hid. As the drunks stayed in the camper near an unhealthy amount of beer cans and a mini fridge, and David had hid after seeing the beast the night before, refusing to sleep, and then sneaking off to where I was staking the area out when he first saw it again. 2 become 1. I got the news last Friday. My partner Katie had died in a bus crash. When the police informed me, it felt like someone was slashing at my soul with a jagged knife. The pain wasn't merely psychological, it was physical. I was desperate for any way to keep Katie with me. The loss was so cruelly abrupt. I needed her to remain a part of my life in any form possible. What's more, I blamed myself for her death that night. I didn't trust the friends she was with. As much as I love her, Katie has never had the best judgment. I begged her not to leave that night, told her to stay in with me instead. I should have tried harder. Was it enjoy? She was gone when I came back from the bathroom. Whether that was part of her own accord, I didn't know, but I had to find out. I knew there was something suspicious surrounding her death, despite what the police believed. I'm sure you can see how that led me to seek out the help of Dr. Brent, an almost godlike figure in the field of neurology. Dr. Brent had somehow discovered the method of saving a person's memories and implanting them in another human brain, the only piece of hardware available that could read the information. I found it all so difficult to understand, meaning I had plenty of questions. I wouldn't have Katie's personality. Rather, it would be like looking back on my own memories of childhood through the lens of my adult personality. When recalling her memories, I may feel, see, and even smell just as Katie used to, but the outlook I applied would be my own. I'll be honest, it all sounded unnerving, but I was driven by the promise of uncovering what happened to Katie and feeling her with me still. Immediately after the procedure, I felt overstimulated as my brain worked to adjust to an entire adult's life worth of additional memories. The first memory of Katie's I recall was in response to the smell of strawberries in the air, her favorite ice cream flavor, a new fact to me. Although I tried to recall what happened to her, the memories were initially blurry, a product of how overwhelming this was. I felt her fear of a shadowy figure, someone who had been following her for a long time, it seemed. I tried to be patient, but I desperately wanted more information. I looked around for things to help trigger memories, almost crippled by the emotions Katie had felt. She had tried to escape. I knew it. That's why she got on that bus. She was terrified. I needed to know who this person was. I rushed home as soon as I could to look through her belongings for clues. That's when the image of him became crystal clear. I caught my reflection in the mirror and in an instant felt sheer terror at the face staring back at me. I hear crying under my bed. Every day right before I fall asleep, I hear crying under my bed. Every day before I'm about to fall asleep, I hear a disturbing cry under my bed. First, a little backstory. My wife, Mary, and I, John, bought a new house last week. The house had no furniture inside of it, except for a bed. We were planning to remove it until we received a note from the previous owner. I am writing this to warn the new individuals living house. As you know, there is nothing other than a bed in this house. There are a few simple rules you need to follow. Never remove the bed. This is very important, and if you remove it, it may cost somebody's life. Do not look under the bed. You will hear noises such as crying, screaming, or even laughing under the bed. Do not investigate. Ignore it, no matter how annoying it is. Do not drink water or eat food in the same room as the bed. My wife insisted this was some prank and we would just remove the bed, but I stopped her. Something told me this wasn't a joke, and I was right. I forgot about the note completely until nighttime. I was just about to fall asleep when I heard a slight cry underneath the bed. My wife was just about to look under, but I pulled her back and told her not to. This happened for weeks, but we had to ignore each cry coming under the bed. The cry usually lasted around 5 to 10 minutes. We lived like this for almost a year, and luckily, nothing bad has happened yet. Until one day, when the cry got louder, it didn't even sound like a cry. It sounded like screaming. Each day it got louder and louder. Then my wife got fed up. While I was at work, she threw the bed away. I came home and saw no bed in our room. "What the hell did you do? Where is the bed?" I yelled. Mary responded calmly. "I threw the bed away. Nothing has happened yet." I figured she might have been right. After all, nothing bad had happened yet and almost 7 hours have passed. So, we decided to go shopping for a new bed. We found one that looked nice and planned to buy it the next day. Tonight we were going to sleep on the couch. But when we came home, we were shocked. There was the bed, sitting in the middle of the room, like nothing happened. I came to the conclusion that the bed just couldn't be thrown away, and I thought nothing else would happen. That night, we decided to sleep on the bed, but something was off. There was no crying. For the first time in months, I slept like a normal person. But that didn't last long because the next night, something worse happened. My wife was about to fall asleep when I heard her scream. I looked down and saw a black arm pulling her leg down. We kept a knife under our pillows in case of an emergency, so I quickly grabbed it and stabbed whatever was hurting my wife. After 30 seconds of intense stabbing, her leg was freed. "Mary, are you okay?" "Yes, I am, John. But if we ever die because of that creature, just know that I love you. Good night." We figured it would be a better idea to sleep on the couch that night. I woke up but couldn't find Mary anywhere. I searched for hours, but my wife was nowhere to be seen. I had called the cops, but they couldn't find any traces of Mary. I walked outside and was met with a note written in blood saying, "I told you not to remove the bed." If you enjoyed that horror story, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and click one of these videos right here if you want more horror stories like that. And as usual, I'll see you again next time.